In order to better combat the zombies and survive in the apocalypse, the survivors actively practice group combat. Under Aaron's command, they march forward with shields in hand and spears slung over their shoulders. Recently, a large ship drifted ashore with a significant number of zombies on board, providing a perfect opportunity for real combat practice. Seeing the team ready, Ezekiel opens the ship's door. Immediately, several zombies stagger out, showing signs of having been in the sea for a long time. Once the team is in position, Ezekiel closes the door again.
Retrieve! Line and march!
This method of combat was left behind by Rick, and with seamless coordination, they can achieve 0 casualties. The second wave of zombies emerges, followed by the third.
Spear! Thrust!
However, there was a problem on Ezekiel's side. The door is trembling under the weight of the zombies, and it feels like it could collapse at any moment. With no other choice, the two quickly retreat. All the zombies inside surge out, and their numbers appear quite substantial. This unexpected situation tests the team's cohesion even further. By now, 6 months have passed since winter. Eugene has utilized his skills to install radios in each community, strengthening the ties between the 3 major communities. To enhance their fighting capabilities, the groups gather periodically for training. Naturally, Oceanside becomes a prime location, and even Luke finds himself smitten with the place. Of course, it remains a favorite among the children too. It seems like kids from any country adore the beach. Judith, undoubtedly the child leader, puts adults at ease with her responsible demeanor. They pour the collected seashells onto the ground. However, when Judith opens what her brother poured out, she freezes. It's a piece of human skin. Unlike other kids who only play, Judith understands the gravity of the situation. The adults also grow tense upon learning about it. Aaron immediately contacts the Alexandria safe zone, urging them to secure the community just in case. Since winter's passing, there had been no sign of the Whisperers, and everyone assumed they had left the area. Micon argues that maintaining vigilance among the guards should suffice for now, without creating panic among the populace. Currently, they've only found a mask. It doesn't necessarily mean the Whisperers have returned. After a discussion among the leaders, they decided to investigate first. The 6 then set off on horseback to explore the Whisperers' demarcation line to see if they could find something. Myshon and Aaron formed one group and took the path. Yumiko and Magna paired up. Alden and Luke stayed along the forest outskirts to investigate. However, after half an hour, they hadn't found anything. Perhaps that human skin mask was just a coincidence. While they were out, Daryl and Ezekiel stood on the dock, gazing out as the fishing boat was returning. On a side note, the relationship between Daryl and Connie was blossoming. Whenever one of them took the first step, being together was just a matter of minutes. Yet, Daryl, the tough guy, was somewhat awkward when it came to emotions. At that moment, they turned their attention to the sea. The person they were waiting for was Carol. It had been a while since they had seen Carol. Seeing Carol disembark, Ezekiel went up to assist her. They greeted each other with smiles and a quick hello.
Sorry, excuse me. Yeah. Did you miss me?
Not really.
I'll take that.
Every time they went fishing, Carol volunteered to go away for days at a time. Carol said she was going out for a break, but how could Daryl not guess what Carol was really thinking? Because the Whisperers had disappeared, Carol must have gone out to look for them. Carol won't let go of her son's murder. Daryl didn't hide it either. Daryl told her about finding the mask on the beach, and Mycon and the others going out to look for it. He asked Carol if she wanted to join. They set out soon after. Regardless of Carol seeking revenge or not, Daryl was there to back her up with actions. They weren't husband and wife, but they were each other's last resort. After a while, they began to walk. On the way, Daryl managed to hit a deer with his arrow, but it managed to escape. They followed the blood trail until they reached the road. The deer was badly injured and couldn't run anymore. It stumbled few steps and collapsed on the other side of the road. But a few zombies started heading towards the deer. Carol picked up her bow to shoot, but Daryl stopped her. Daryl stops her because the deer is already on the alpha side of the border. Carol then asks why they should follow rules they never agreed to when the Whisperers have disappeared into thin air. While the two debated, the zombies pounced on the deer, much to Carol's displeasure. The dinner for 200 was gone, just like that. Later, the two sat in the woods, eating and chatting. It had been a while since they had a chance to sit together like this. Meanwhile, Maikone's group hadn't found anything significant. But just as they were preparing to head back, Yumiko's voice came through the radio saying they had a situation. They quickly rode to the specified location. It was within the territories of the 3 major communities. The scene indicated that someone had built a camp here and lived for some time. Several bodies lay on the ground, leaving it unclear whether they had encountered zombies or had conflicts with other people. Then they found a recently dead body on the ground, but it was stripped of all its clothes. Now they were sure it was man-made. Not far away, they found a skin on a tree trunk. It seemed that at least one of the Whisperers had infiltrated the territories of the 3 major communities, and no one had noticed. They returned to Oceanside, and while these findings didn't confirm the Whisperers' return, it was reason enough for the 3 major communities to remain vigilant. Meanwhile, within the Alexandria safe zone, Rosita was in postpartum recovery. Her child had been born months ago. However, Rosita had plenty of leisure time because there were others helping with childcare. Eugene employed scientific methods to care for the child. No matter what he does, he has to keep a table and observe the data over a period of time, as if it's a scientific study. The baby's own father is also amazed at this. Even a fart has to be studied. He is really impressed. At that moment, Rosita's current husband, Gabriel, walked in, wearing a somewhat grim expression. News had arrived from Oceanside that the Whisperers might be making a comeback. Subsequently, the council members gathered in the meeting room. Naturally, Lydia was excluded. She still harbored a burning resentment. While people on the surface had accepted her, deep down they all believed she was still connected to the Whisperers. Negan, who was working nearby, noticed this too. It seemed that life wasn't easy for this girl. He then climbed into conversation with Lydia. They were both alternatives in this community and soon had something in common. From Lydia, Negan learned about the council meeting's purpose. Just as they were beginning to talk, the council members emerged from the room. Negan greeted them warmly. But with the Whisperers on their minds, no one paid him any attention. Afterwards, Sadiq returned home to soothe his child. He hadn't been feeling well lately. Scenes of the Whisperers killing his companions kept replaying in his mind. Just as Sadiq was lost in thought, a man in a white coat emerged from the house. Sadiq was stunned. How could Dante be in his home? Dante explained that he had come in after hearing the baby cry outside. Only then did Sadiq realize that he hadn't heard the baby crying despite his trance-like state. Sadiq quickly picked up the baby and coaxed him. Dante was a recent addition to the community and had some medical knowledge, so he had become Sadiq's apprentice. After a brief chat, Dante left the house. Outside, Gabriel reminded the residents to lock their doors at night and refrain from going out if possible. They needed to stay vigilant. Suddenly, a fireball appeared in the sky, shooting towards a short distance. While everyone was wondering, Eugene ran towards the radio. Maikone's group also witnessed the event.
Alexandria to Oceanside. Come in, Oceanside. Please speak up.
Oceanside copy. This is Rachel.
This is Eugene. I need to speak with Michonne and any of the community leadership at OS right away. Something of grave importance is about to happen.
That night, people from the 3 major communities gathered at Oceanside. A mysterious object had fallen from the sky, igniting a forest fire. Unfortunately, the fire was in the Whisperer's territory. Forget about the Whisperer's boundary for now. Extinguishing the fire was the top priority. Otherwise, Oceanside wouldn't be spared. Equipped with firefighting tools, everyone set out. Upon arrival, they saw that it was an artificial satellite that had fallen. An incredible occurrence. But it wasn't time to be astonished. They quickly began battling the flames. In addition to the water bottles on their backs, they can also use branches and sand to put out the fire. For forest and grassland fires, the most effective method was to create fire breaks from the back. By separating the combustible material and then lighting a controlled fire in the opposite direction, only a small portion of the forest needed to be sacrificed. As dawn approached, the fire was under control, with only a few tree trunks still burning. Zombies had been attracted to the scene, but they were quickly eliminated.
Everyone steer clear of that tree! It's gonna fall any minuto!
Half an hour later, the fire was completely extinguished with no casualties. A few individuals had inhaled smoke but were unharmed. Michon instructed everyone to pack up and leave. After all, this was the Whisperer's territory. Eugene, however, was intrigued by the satellite and wanted to take something back for study. Michon reluctantly asked a few people to assist him in salvaging parts, but they only had 5 minutes. As they were preparing to leave, Michon realized she hadn't seen Daryl and Carol throughout this time. Unbeknownst to Michon, Daryl and Carol had arrived at the pit once filled with zombies. Since they were now in the Whisperer's territory, they decided to check if they were still around. However, to Daryl's surprise, the pit that had once been filled with so many zombies was now completely empty. Could it be that the Whisperers had actually left? Carol's face displayed a tinge of disappointment. She didn't know where to turn for revenge against Alpha. Since they hadn't found anything, they decided to head back. However, at that moment, Carol seemed to see something. Movement in the distant bushes caught her attention, and out stepped Alpha. The Whisperers hadn't parted. Alpha walked to a nearby rock and leisurely surveyed her surroundings. But when Alpha looked up, she was taken aback. She saw a woman, the same woman from the sketch at the fair. Carol had a murderous look in her eyes.